Good evening and welcome to the program. I'm Eric Nzoka.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Linda Ogutu. The bodies of 3 people have been recovered in Wangari and Kiserian area. The 3 were carried away by a seasonal river. 2 were aboard a matatu, while the other was attempting to make his way home at around 11 o'clock last night.
These deaths bring the death toll of the floods to 5. Red Cross officials have asked those living in low-lying areas to look for higher ground until the long rains subside.
This 14-seater minivan were en route to Kiserian. However, the seasonal river between Wangari and Kiserian had burst its banks and flooded the bridge linking the 2 locations. The driver reportedly tried to cross the flooded bridge but seemed to have underestimated the strength of the currents that swept him and all the occupants of the minivan away. By this morning, rescue workers had retrieved the bodies of a man and a woman 200 meters downstream and the mangled wreck of the vehicle held by a tree trunk. With no occupants inside and no survivors, the possibilities of finding more victims in the river became a harsh certainty. Other reports indicate that the matatu had 4 passengers. The same seasonal river known as Remelepo River also claimed the life of one man who was trying to make his way home at around 11 o'clock on Sunday night. Police are still searching for a second victim. In Kisumu's Kano Plains, homes have been partially submerged in water.
There was too much rain yesterday night.
There have been efforts to relocate those in flood-prone areas such as Kano and Nyando. However, the residents seem to want to stay and have learned to live with the flash floods. Meet Reverend James Musyoki. He stares at the space where a wall of his church once stood. The Presbyterian Central Mission Church in Gurubani Mwe Plains was left in shambles following the heavy rains that hit most parts of the country on Sunday night. James Musyoki and his physically disabled daughter must now seek refuge at a neighbor's home until the church walls are repaired. The early morning rains caused havoc in Mwe Plains and most homes, link roads and bridges are now submerged in the floodwater. Several residents of Athi River have also been left stranded after the Athi River bridge was washed away. The Kenya Red Cross has set up a special team that provides necessities such as blankets, mosquito nets and dry foodstuffs such as maize flour to help those who have lost their homes. Catherine Omwanto, KTN.
I'm sure you've seen the same situation wherever you are. Samuel Mwangi is the Deputy Director of the Kenya Meteorological Department, and he now joins me live on the other side of the studio. He's actually at the City Center Studios. Samuel Mwangi, welcome to KTN. Maybe the first question I'm going to ask you is, we've seen the rains that have wreaked havoc in the country. Was this forthcoming?
Thank you very much for inviting me. Actually, I'm a Senior Assistant Director, not a Deputy Director. But to get back to your question, these rains were expected. We received quite a lot of rain, particularly in Gong area. And Gong area specifically received 117 millimeters in the last 24 hours ended this morning. The previous day, it had received 100 millimeters. This is the water that is sweeping down towards Kitengela, Ongatarungag, and causing all this havoc that we are seeing in that area. Other areas that are receiving heavy rainfall include parts of central Kenya, parts of Murang'a, Embu, Kirinyaga. In the western parts of the country, we are also seeing Turkana, Kisumu, Migori, and parts of the Rift Valley. Nairobi also, of course, is receiving quite a substantial rainfall.
Are these the areas that you, as the Kenya Meteorological Department, see as vulnerable areas when it comes to rains?
Yes, mainly because some of these areas are flood plains. The Kano Plains have been known to have seasonal floods. We also expect seasonal floods in parts of western Kenya, Budarangi, Busia, all these areas. Migori also. Flash floods can be realized anywhere. What we are seeing in parts of Kajiado are basically flash floods. Rains fall over maybe the hilly areas, the water sweeps down and catches people mainly unawares.
What do we expect in the coming months? We know that it's early to tell.
We are still in the rainfall season. We are still in the rainfall season. We expect the rainfall season to continue for the next 2 months or so. Basically, March of April is, actually April is the peak month of the rainfall season. And therefore, this is when we expect the heaviest rainfall to be received. So, we urge people to be careful, particularly when encountering moving water. Anything above 6 inches, don't wade into it, particularly if it's fast moving. If you are driving, water that gets to about 2 feet is dangerous feet, and they can cause all manner of disaster.
Well, thank you for that advice. But the final question I'm going to ask you, very many people are wondering, what does the Kenya Meteorological Department do when such a scenario happens? What do you do as an organization?
Basically, it must be realized that we are an early warning organization. We give out all this information. Indeed, we gave this information earlier on in late February, and we are indicating that areas of Nairobi, much of Western Kenya, these areas would actually receive heavy rainfall. That we actually refer as near normal to above normal in our press releases. And this is basically what is being realized now. We are seeing this heavy rainfall, and it's causing some devastation. We are passing this information to the relevant ministries, the relevant players, the Red Cross, and so on. And therefore, these other ministries are in a position to act on accurate information and save lives and property.
Thank you. Samuel Mwangi speaking to KTN. Much appreciated. Now we move on to other stories, and I think now Linda Ogutu is going to take that for us.
Indeed, Eric, let's now focus our attention on security. Of course, you have been warned there, a word of caution even as the rainy season gets here. But right now, let's take a look at the security situation that has been worrying a lot of people in the country, as police in Nairobi launched a manhunt for suspected terrorists who planted an explosive device in Kariobangi area. Security agents in Nakuru rushed to detonate a homemade bomb left in a farm.
The explosive was discovered from San Marco farm in Nakuru's Rongai area by farmers. KTN's Asha Muilu now reports on these security threats that have left residents in Nairobi and Nakuru alarmed.
It was an unusual scene witnessed in Nakuru County. Residents of Rongai in Salga watched in shock as experts from the bomb squad and the anti-terror police unit disarmed an explosive device found in a local farm.
Hiyo mlipuko kwanza imenistua sana. Hata karibu use iongezeke.
The homemade device was found wrapped in sheets of aluminium foil and planted in a vast farm, leaving police officers puzzled on the intent of the bomber.
Zungushwa na magunia, na hayo magunia yote yamepasuliwa. Just imagine kama ingekuwa magunia hayako. Hata pellets zingefikia watu.
This incident comes only a day after a similar bomb was discovered in Nairobi's Kariobangi area. Passengers in this public service vehicle plying Route 14 escaped death narrowly after the explosive implanted in their vehicle failed to explode. The chilling scenes of bomb experts neutralizing the device has now caused a silent unrest in Kariobangi.
Hata naona tu mtu na kabox nasema tu ashukishwe juu tuweza lipua zote.
Hata asubuhi kuna waliingia gari pale, wale abiria walikuwa huko ndani wakashuka wote. Wakasema kwanza angaliwe hiyo bagi ni nini iko huko ndani.
Unaona kitu kama hiyo inaweza ua watu sana. Inaweza bomoa nyumba.
Sasa serikali wamulike hao watu wanatekeleza hizo vitu. Sababu sasa hata mimi ninasituka.
The Eastlands area of Nairobi has now become a major hotspot for such explosions. Last year, a matatu operating the same route was ripped apart in an explosion, killing 6 passengers and injuring more than 24 others. The incident, however, and that reported yesterday, seems not to have jolted residents and police from the laxity in being vigilant.
let the ministry which is concerned with internal security at least or impact some rules, at least tukuwe na security in every place where we are.
Wana take advantage, wale wanafanya kazi ya kuteka hizo bomb, lakini wengine wanagojea ile confusion, sasa nao wanaingia kwa kazi yao. Suppose bomb iko hapa na umetoka job, utasimama, utaenda huko, utakimbia huko, unajua ni gari gani nakuchukua huko, ukifika pale upate mwizi pale hata kuibia.
The correlation between the number of informal settlements around here and the high crime rate has not been new to police officers in Nairobi. But now the elevated and sophisticated criminal activities such as the ones being reported now is what residents here say they want the authorities to prioritize. Asha Mwilu reporting for KTN in Kariobangi.
Right, let's stay with security, but from a different angle. Prime Minister Raila Odinga's company that specializes in gas cylinders manufacture was last night broken into and property worth millions of shillings either stolen or vandalized. The attackers are said to have taken off with 2 trucks of gas cylinders worth over 3 million shillings. In a quick rejoinder, Prime Minister's aide Eliud Owalo says the Odinga family is treating the incident as a normal robbery but cannot rule out political intimidation. Aaron Ochieng reports.
An attack on Prime Minister Raila Odinga's private business, East African Spectre, in Nairobi's industrial area by unknown people has left his family in shock. The attack that happened on Sunday night, just a day after the Supreme Court ruling that rejected Raila's presidential election petition, has left many questions unanswered. Property worth millions of shillings was vandalized and hundreds of gas cylinders stolen.
We also discovered the people on night shift, security people on night have also gone missing. So we reported the matter to the police who are carrying out investigations.
Also vandalized in the late night attack were several vehicles.
We have not had a similar problem in the past to this magnitude, so this one came to us as a surprise.
According to the firm's technical manager, 266 13 kilograms gas cylinders and 413 6-kilogram gas cylinders labeled Total Petroleum were stolen. Former Raila's presidential campaign secretariat boss Eliud Owalo immediately launched a complaint with the police. In a statement to newsrooms, Owalo hints at a possible hand of mercenaries. Owalo interpreted the incident as an act of intimidation and economic blackmail. His statement read in part, "I urge President-elect Uhuru Kenyatta to make it his cordial responsibility to uphold the letter and spirit of the Constitution so that Kenya does not slide back to the events of the single-party era." He goes further to say, "I have just placed a call to the Inspector General of Police to complain about the issue and further make a public appeal to his office to move with speed and diligence to not only apprehend the culprits but also to unearth the motive behind this ill motive." Aaron Ochieng, KTN.
Let's move on to matters environment. And 19 elephant tusks were last evening recovered in Isli. The tusks, weighing 109 kilograms, were found packed in a pickup. One person who was found in possession of the ivory was arrested and will be arraigned in court tomorrow morning. Investigations are underway to establish the origin and intended destination of the ivory. Rita Tidina reports on the latest recovery and why wildlife authorities are worried.
Kenya Wildlife Service investigators will not divulge much information on their latest find, but say they had been trailing the pickup for a while. It was in the Isli area that KWS officers decided to make a move.
Managed to arrest one person who had in his possession 19 pieces of ivory weighing 109 kilos.
The suspect who was arrested is due to appear before the Kibera court on Tuesday to face charges of being in illegal possession of ivory.
The suspect will be arraigned in court tomorrow together with the vehicle that was used to ferry these pieces of ivory as an exhibit.
KWS officers say investigations are underway and it remains unclear where the ivory was from or where it was headed. The Eastleigh recovery is only the latest in what analysts term as a spike in cases of illegal trade in ivory and poaching. In the last 1 month alone, 478 pieces of ivory were recovered in the country, including 439 pieces which were netted from a Chinese national at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport on the 10th of March. In early January, 12 elephants including a calf were shot dead by poachers and their tusks removed in Savo, in the country's worst single poaching incident in close to 3 decades. Last month's Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species CITES meeting in Bangkok, Thailand identified Kenya as both a source and transit point for the global illegal trade in ivory. Uganda and Tanzania are the other source countries. Kenya, Malaysia and the Philippines are transit countries, while China, Thailand and Vietnam were identified as the consumer countries. A CITES ban on ivory trade has been in force since 1990 but has not eradicated elephant poaching and illegal trade in ivory. Kenya, which has close to 40,000 elephants, has largely managed to stabilize its elephant population following near decimation by poachers in the 1980s. But in recent months, cases of poaching and illegal trade in ivory have been on the rise in the country. Analysts blame the demand for ivory in Asian countries such as China and the easy access to weapons by poaching gangs for the increase in cases of poaching and illegal ivory trade. Rita Tinina, KTN.
Right, with Uhuru Kenyatta's election as president having been given a clean bill of health after Saturday's historic Supreme Court ruling, preparations are underway for his inauguration scheduled to take place on Saturday next week.
With only 7 days to prepare for the historic event, the military and other stakeholders are working round the clock in readiness for the ceremony that will be watched globally. The Kenya Defence Force officers have camped at Moi Sports Centre Kasarani preparing for the President-elect's first guard of honor. It's actually on Saturday. When KTN visited the grounds today, the military band was also in place, sounding their instruments and the tunes that will fill the air come Tuesday next week. Among the invited distinguished guests include head of states and other dignitaries. This will be the first inauguration under the new constitution, which has been the backbone of the electoral process in Kenya.
Indeed, President-elect Uhuru Kenyatta will be sworn in on the 7th of April 2013, 7 days after the Supreme Court gave its ruling on the presidential petition. Of course, we will keep an eye on that for you. We will cover that for you live.
Actually, it's on the 9th of April. That's on Tuesday. Make a date and see the historic inauguration of that. Moving on, the Kenyan media has come under sharp focus in the way the just concluded general election was covered.
The media has received both praises and criticism almost in equal measure. But what really were the practical options for the local media in this election? KTN's Noah Otieno reports.
Now that the general election of March 2013 is over and the determination of the presidential election petitions at the Supreme Court already concluded, the hard questions must be asked. And some of these questions have to do with how the Kenyan media itself covered the general election of March 2013.
The media, especially local media, deserves special attention. For their fair coverage of the elections and in conducting themselves in a most exemplary and responsible way.
When you may not know, but there was a conspiracy by the local media to completely give blackout to any complaints by the contestants.
There are many others who are still not sure how to rate the local media's performance in the coverage of the issues surrounding the election. But one of the experts involved in the defense of freedom of expression in Kenya insists that the media failed Kenyans in some critical aspects.
The chair came up after a day or so to tell us that the constitution gives him 6 more days to announce results. But we didn't remind him that he had voluntarily told Kenyans he would announce results in 48 hours. What had changed? As a manager, was he telling us his planning wasn't up to bit? Where was this question to ask him this?
Was the media too cautious or too reluctant to criticize the IEBC? The vice chairman of the Kenya Editors Guild, David Ohito, believes that the media did not deprive Kenyans of what they needed to know.
Look at how the media carried the stories of the failed BVR tender systems. And you know, we carried the story day in until Parliament had to stop the procurement, until government had to cancel that tender and look for more competent people.
I think what journalists did in relaying peace messages was okay. But if peace messages supplanted news, if peace messages tended to then be used to cover up a slot where there would have been a controversial question asking the competence of IEBC, asking a process of manipulating the voting or the tallying process, then that could be a very big risk we got ourselves in.
Well, the practical options are, I think, what we did. Maybe, I don't know which other way we would have done it, because if we had gone the same way we covered the elections last time, probably would have seen more emotions coming out, and probably would have had a lot of reaction or negative reaction in terms of appealing to the emotions of the people.
I don't think there was any information that I held back. I did give all the information that I could to my superiors, who were, you know, the second gatekeepers. So they decided what would go on air and what wouldn't go on air. But there would be no regrets of information withheld from the public.
Some candidates and political players were very angry at the collective Kenyan media for not airing their complaints live as results were streaming in from the polling stations.
It's very difficult to check the tongue of a loose politician, and Kenyan politicians are very disgraceful when they go live sometimes. Some of the things you and me know pretty well that we did not air are pretty bad, and even if we air them today, they would have instant impact on society. They would inflame ethnic tensions and even force people on the streets to riot.
The duty the Kenyan media had to Kenyans in this election and the self-assessment of the performance of the Kenyan media in the coverage of the 2013 election will continue to be examined for years to come. Noah Otino, KTN at the Standard Media Group Center in Nairobi.
I'm sure those are challenges that all media houses in the country had to deal with. Now, the Google Internet search engine has dedicated its Google Doodle to Nobel Peace Prize laureate and African hero Wangari Maathai.
The late Wangari, who would have turned 73 today, died on the 25th of September in 2011 from cancer. But even a year and a half after her death, she is still celebrated here and around the world for her valiant bid to protect the Kenyan forests and environment.
It's been 1.5 years since her death, but Wangari Maathai still reigns in the hearts of many, not just here in Kenya, but more so around the world. She will remain an inspiration to all those who knew her work, and she has left an indelible mark to all those who were against her. In light of this, the Google search engine management dedicated the Google Doodle to this woman who changed people's perception about the environment and conservation. Wangari was born on the 1st of April 1940. Had cancer not won yet another battle, she would have been 73 years old, and judging by her character, still fighting for environmental conservation. Her activism was not limited to environmental conservation. She was the first female professor in Kenya, and while at the University of Nairobi, she fought for equal rights for women. She also fought for democracy during the second liberation in the 1990s. Her memory has been honoured by world leaders, including Prince Charles of Wales, who recently, during a memorial at Kew Royal Botanical Gardens in London, said he admired and loved Wangari Maathai. During the memorial, Prince Charles planted a tree in Wangari Maathai's honour.
We are constantly being bombarded by problems that we face, and sometimes we can get completely overwhelmed. The story of the hummingbird is about this huge forest being consumed by a fire. All the animals in the forest come out and they are transfixed as they watch the forest burning, and they feel very overwhelmed, very powerless, except this little hummingbird. It says, I'm going to do something about the fire. So it flies to the nearest stream, takes a drop of water, and puts it on the fire and goes up and down, up and down, up and down, as fast as it can. In the meantime, all the other animals, much bigger animals like the elephant with a big trunk, could bring much more water. They are standing there helpless, and they are saying to the hummingbird, what do you think you can do? You're too little. This fire is too big. Your wings are too little. And your beak so small, you can only bring a small drop of water at a time. But as they continue to discourage it, it turns to them without wasting any time and tells them, I'm doing the best I can. And that to me is what all of us should do. We should always feel like a hummingbird. I may feel insignificant, but I certainly don't want to be like the animals watching as the planet goes down the drain. I will be a hummingbird. I will do the best I can.
Definitely, I will do the best I can. Be like the hummingbird. She will be missed greatly. She was a great inspiration. Happy birthday indeed to her, Wangari Maathai.
It's been a while since she passed on, but indeed her spirit still lives among us.
You are watching KTN Prime with me, Eric Njoka and Linda Oguta, and just ahead.
Relief for farmers as government distributes subsidized fertilizer. Cereals and Produce Board has received over 200,000 bags of subsidized fertilizer to be distributed to farmers in North Rift region, Nyanza and parts of Western Province.
The subsidized fertilizer is being released by the Ministry of Agriculture through the NCPB after President Mwai Kibaki directed Treasury to release 2.7 billion shillings to assist in buying subsidized fertilizer and seeds for farmers. Traders who might be planning to buy the farm inputs to sell at a higher price to other farmers have been warned as stern action would be taken if caught. Farmers are being advised to look for assistance at the NCPB headquarters or the Ministry of Agriculture if they have difficulties in assessing the fertilizer in their various regions depots.
Is being distributed by National Cereals and Produce Board on behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture. This has been purchased by the ministry, and the board is distributing on behalf of government. This is in addition to 800,000 bags which we distributed between the months of November and December. We believe that a number of farmers purchased that fertilizer, and therefore they should have commenced planting using what they had already procured. But this is an additional amount, and on top of this there will be an additional shipment which should be at the port of Mombasa within 7 days. And therefore, all farmers should be assured that the government has done everything possible to ensure that they have enough fertilizer for this planting season.
Now, a few days after being sworn into office, governors and other county officials will from tomorrow hold a week-long induction training with the central government to familiarize themselves with the task of managing the counties. The workshop, which will take place in Naivasha, will be opened officially by President Kibaki. Speaking to KTN on phone, the chairman of Transitional Authority, Kinothia Wamwangi, says the workshop will also be used by the central government to explain different roles that the county officials will be playing. Whether or not the governors will be allowed to fly the national flags on their vehicles will be an issue that will definitely be discussed in Naivasha, as well as the roles of the county commissioners.
Three people perished, including a 7-year-old child, and 27 others sustained serious injuries at an accident that occurred at Rakwaro in Rongo earlier today. The bus is believed to have been heading to Nairobi from Migori when the accident occurred. According to eyewitnesses, the bus was speeding and rolled severally while trying to avoid hitting an oncoming vehicle. The injured were rushed to Rongo Level 4 Hospital. The accident occasioned a traffic snarl-up on the busy road, and drivers have been asked to take caution and avoid speeding, especially during this rainy season.
All right, let's take a look at some of the stories making headlines around the world. And we begin with the North African state of Sudan. Sudan's President Omar al-Bashir has said all political prisoners in the country are to be released. In a speech at the opening of Parliament, Bashir also said the government was committed to a national dialogue with all groups. 2 men have died in the Chinese city of Shanghai after contracting a strain of bad flu not previously known in humans. A woman who caught the virus elsewhere is said to be critically ill. The Central African Republic rebel leader Michel Jotodia has declared himself president of the Central African Republic and announced a caretaker government in which he controls several ministries. The infamous Atu brothers, who left Kenya after accusations that they were global conmen, have resurfaced in the Maldives. Newspapers in the Maldives have pictures of one of the Atu brothers walking with the big shots of the government. Their presence in the Maldives comes after ousted leader Mohamed Nasheed expressed fear over his life. On to Fool's Day, Google fooled users into sniffing out aromas through their computers and phone screens. This saw users across the world get pranked smelling what they were searching for. I hope you're not pranked. YouTube was also not left behind. It released a video saying they were closing the site at midnight to give themselves 10 years to find the best ever video and relaunch. The officials added that they were looking to relaunch in 2023 with funnier clips. I hope you're not fooled. You're indeed watching KTN Prime.
And welcome to KTN Sports Today. I am Nicholas Mudimba. Kenya Police men's team lifted the inaugural Kenya Hockey Union Top 8 tournament that ended today at the City Park Stadium. Women's national champions Telecom Orange warmed up for the upcoming new season with a victory in the ladies tournament. The Orange women defeated Strathmore University. Impressive Jackie Mwangi sounded the board thrice as the continental and 15 times national champions Orange girls registered a 4-1 over Madaraka students. Mwangi sounded the board in the 20th minute from a well-taken field goal. Veteran Betty Tioni made scores 2-0 2 minutes later. Mwangi added 2 more field goals in the 32nd and 43rd minutes to take Orange ahead, but Strathmore were able to pull one back through Lucy Wanjiku, who scored from a penalty corner. In the men's matches, Kenya Police locked up Strathmore while Nairobi's Simba Union was too good for Kisumu Simba Union. The law enforcers escaped the 3-2 victory over the roaring Simba Union. George Mutira scored a brace for Simba Union, while the experienced Moses Cheplaiti hat-trick lifted the policeman. Now, moving on, 12th placed AFC Leopards played to newcomers Kakamega Homeboys in the only midweek Premier League match this Wednesday. Leopards, who have won 1 of 5 matches they have played so far, will be seeking a quick redemption after they fell to Moroni Youth. Moroni Youth are now basking in the glory of being among the top 5 teams after 6 rounds of the new season. With 10 points, KCB have laid a march more than Thika United are on top of the table with 14 points, 2 ahead of the Thika-based side. Channel Sugar and Sofapaka complete the top 5 teams, while FC Leopards top the bottom 5 teams. Victory for Leopards will take them to position 6 depending on the number of goals they'll score against the Homeboys. Now moving on, the United States International University dominated this year's inter-universities basketball games, which ended at Makande Grounds in Mombasa last night. Thika Road-based students clinched the men and the women's title in the tournament that Zuku has splashed 50 million shillings in sponsorship. USIU teams made the University of Nairobi position. In the men's finals, USIU won 60-48, while USIU women were 64-22 winners. The two teams take part in the National Kenya Basketball League, and the tournament was enough ground for either side to prepare for the new season. The annual tournament attracted 8 teams. The teams that will take part in the 2013-2014 edition starting next month have a lot to play for after Pay TV Zuku East Africa announced a 50 million shilling sponsorship. Zuku CEO Richard Bell presented the sponsorship check on the sidelines.